Howdy, y'all. This is Proverbs 25 in the RSV for December 25th, 2023. These also are Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the mind of kings is unsearchable. Take away the dross from the silver, and the smith has material for a vessel. Take away the wicked from the presence of the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence or stand in the place of the great, for it's better to be told, "Come up here," than to be put lower in the presence of a prince. What your eyes have seen, do not hastily bring into court, for what will you do in the end when your neighbor puts you to shame? Argue your case with your neighbor himself, and do not disclose another secret, lest he who hears you bring shame upon you, and your ill repute have no end. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Like a gold ring or an ornament of gold is a wise reprover to a listening ear. Like the cold of snow in the time of harvest is a faithful messenger to those who send him. He refreshes the spirits of his masters. Like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts of a gift he does not give. With patience, a ruler may be persuaded, and soft tongue will break a bone. If you have found honey, eat only enough for you, lest you be sated with it and vomit it. Let your foot seldom be in your neighbor's house, lest he become weary of you and hate you. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a war club, or a sword, or a sharp arrow. Trust in a faithless man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth or a foot that slips. He who sings songs to a heavy heart is like one who takes off a garment on a cold day, and like vinegar on a wound. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he's thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind brings forth rain, and a backbiting tongue, angry looks. It is better to live in a corner of a housetop than in a house shared with a contentious woman. Like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. Like a muddied spring or a polluted fountain is a righteous man who gives way before the wicked. It's not good to eat much honey, so be sparing of complimentary words. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. So, like me, my oldest kiddo is really a science kid. He's just really interested in the different aspects of science and wants to be a scientist when he grows up. So, we've had this talk a couple of times about the Bible and the truth revealed in the Bible, but that we're not disallowed from learning truth other places. So, the Lord makes creation and how it works, and we figure out how that works and try to look for it. And that's the nature of science. It's constantly evolving, changing. We think we figure things out, and then pieces that don't add up begin to stack, and then eventually the scales tip, and somebody has a new model that accounts for the old knowledge and the new pieces. And on we go, through the progression. So science is a question of wondering if, and then challenging your assumptions, because you set forth an experiment to disprove your hypothesis, not to prove it. So I digress, but this is what I tell my kiddo, and this is what I think to myself. It's the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search things out. We don't have a grand unified theory of everything yet, or physics yet. We're working on it. I'd say we're looking good, but we don't know it yet. And we could always have understanding flipped on its head again, as has happened before. Impurities, right? So whether it's metal or people in a court of a king, you got to get them out so the most optimal state can shine forth. And we're always being told to act with humility and be humble. So when we go to a party or a gathering, we shouldn't be jockeying for the best space and to be the most seen, because it's going to be a shame if you're told, like, hey, can you move out the way? This guy's important. I need him to stand here. It's going to hurt your feelings and make you look like a fool in front of everybody, or at least lesser than. So better to do your thing, hang out, and have people look for you. Hey, where's Cheetah? We want him to come up here and sit with us. Then it's an honor for you and before everybody, right? So be humble in your daily dealings. And if you see something wrong, go argue. Go speak to the person directly instead of trying to bring them to the court of justice, right? Whether it be court or social court. How good it is, right, to say the right thing at the right time. So you got to guard your tongue and hold it back so you know when the correct moment is. Because if you're always talking, you're going to blow right past it. It's like we think about hanging out with our friends and, being with them all the time, but we're even told don't be over there too much and don't be too familiar. This about singing songs to somebody with a heavy heart. It's like you can try to cheer somebody up, but you're probably just making it worse. It's like highlighting their sadness, right? Like taking off a garment on a cold day or vinegar on a wound and make it worse, or at least the pain. Again, be humble. Take care of your enemies if they need the help. It's not for your glory, it's for the Lord's glory. And it's so that they can see how you should be acting and hopefully learn from your example and turn from how they act. The muddied fountain, right? Or muddied spring or polluted fountain. It's hard being a public Christian. Because if you're enticed, if you fall, then you're also publicly a public screw up, right? And you don't have the esteem maybe that you once did. Which is fine on a personal level. You shouldn't be worried about yourself being esteemed, but you don't want to give Christ a bad name. So if you're very publicly proclaiming Christ and also a terrible person, as several, let's say, TV personalities are, then you're only doing harm. And I'll just end on the last verse, right? A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Anything can come in and out, affect you, take what it wants from you, add what it wants to add to you. You've got to be able to set proper boundaries, even with ourself, our tongue, our thoughts, our day-to-day routine. Self-control, right? You can do anything, but you got to do it. And God will steer the ship, but you got to row. So with that, go with God, be blessed.